I'm sorry, I have a sore throat. I was in Suriname, if you know where that is, last week, and the differences between Sweden and Suriname is almost 40 degrees in this time, so I suppose we are not meant to do this kind of travel. The soul will never catch anyway. I will give you a sort of piece of advice, and I will also give myself a piece of advice. Do the right things and don't overdo it. That goes for the industry, because that's all about trust. If we can actually fulfill our commitments. But it goes, this is a piece of advice also to the regulators, to the legislators, to me, myself, and my colleagues in the European Parliament, and the national parliaments as well. Do the right thing, but don't overdo it. And actually, I would say that all of us, during the last 2.5 years, we have not fulfilled this. We are stressed, and we have to do things very rapidly. And you know, politics and also regulators, they have to act very promptly. But sometimes it's overdone, and sometimes it's actually not the best thing that has been done. We have a little story from back home. We could call it an anecdote. In 1656, Johan Palmstruch, he actually founded the first bank, 1656. It's called Banco Stockholm. In 1661, this Mr. Palmstruch launched the first banknotes to facilitate monetary management. They were, of course, initially a very huge success. It all ended, however, with a bank crash. After Palmstruch been tempted to give out too many notes in relation to the underlying values that were deposited in the bank. So in the response to this crash, the Swedish Parliament, the Riksdag, in 1668 formed and founded the National Bank. It's called the Riksbank of Sweden, actually the first central bank. So there you can see. And what does this say? Yeah, out of problem catastrophes, of course, you can learn a lot. And it's like, when I was a young student, everyone had to read Mao Zedong. I don't know about you. Perhaps you will never admit it, but at least I did. At least I read him, this little red book. And he says that you are not supposed to lift up a stone or a rock, small rock, stone, and just drop it on your own feet. You are supposed to go a bit further, walk away, and then drop it. And what does he mean by this, of course? He meant that you should learn out of history. And this is, of course, what we are trying to do now. But perhaps the problem is that actually we really don't know. Well, we know this crisis, even though that I think we have been hesitant in many ways. But on the other hand, we don't know what the next crisis will show. And the results that we are now coming up with, will that cope with the next crisis? Well, we don't know. But hopefully we will be more prepared that time. I was a member of the crisis committee. We actually put up a special committee trying to learn what really happened and then to come up with some different proposals. I think in the end we almost tried to have to find the reasons, the main reasons behind the problems, and I think if we don't try to take them in priority, I think there were 35 or almost 40 different reasons why this actually happened, and perhaps that also creates part of the problems. What are we to focus on? And Mr. Barnier, this very competent commissioner, he promised, as you know, to deliver and to regulate everything that he could see on his way, every identity, and fulfill all the loopholes, the gaps, and whatever, regulated arbitrage and so on. He promised that in his hearings in 2010. And I think he has fulfilled his promises. We had a lunch in Strasbourg the other week. I don't know if you've seen it. He passed it on to me. This is the 24 different legislation, regulations. I think you can get it in colors if you want. And the time scale and the timetable, how much he has done and how much the Commission has presented and so on. And I made this remark that perhaps you have done too much, Mr. Commissioner. And he's a very friendly and very nice man, as you know. So he was not insulted, but he said, I do think that that's the first time anyone has told me that I've done too much. Well, there you see that for me as a rather normal, if there are normal liberals, I don't know, market-oriented liberal, I have had some problems with what's coming up and all the different parts of the legislation. And as I stated in the beginning, I have a concern and that I really don't know in the end. And I'm not saying that because I have the presumption to know this, not at all. But there are experts, and sometimes I think we should sit down and say, are we actually going in the right direction? Or should we perhaps relax a bit and see the consequences of what we are doing right now? And we have asked the Commission, and that actually promised as well during this hearing, that there should be some impact assessment of the legislations, or try to see the consequences in a more accumulative way. If you put every different proposal, you just see one of them, I would say that everyone is more or less appropriate. But if you fulfill them with 24, 25, what will the consequences be for the market, for the real economy, as we are always saying, the real economy, what that is? Could it perhaps be that some of these legislations, and that I could see are the questions that are coming up later, do they actually foster growth? Or could it be that in sometimes actually they could hamper growth? There could be problems that has not been foreseen. You are doing one thing on this side, but something else happens on the other side. I think we should reflect over this in a more sincere way. But I also would like to say, and probably you know that when I entered the Parliament in '99, and these legislations concerning the financial market and brought to us by Mr. Bolkestein in the Netherlands, everyone was saluting the financial market. We had a round table with the CEO at Volvo at that time, Mr. Gyllenhammar, how many new jobs that would create and so on. We need a common market, a financial market in Europe. And more or less we were saluting it. But that is not the case. And you can listen to the debates in Parliament, in committees, and perhaps even in the national parliaments. And there you can hear a totally different tone. And at least I'm trying, but I must admit that it's not that easy. But at least we are still trying to say that we need a responsible financial market. We need good banks, for heaven's sake. We need banks. Banks are good. We need investments and so on. But it's difficult because it's all in the end, and you know all this. It's about trust. You can lose it instantly, but it takes time to get it back, and that is what it's all about right now.